Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another night right here at the SportsKrib. Uh, as you can see tonight, I have brought another juju on for my Steelers. Hey, I'm doing everything I can for this season. I brought Bob Marley tonight. I still have my dream catcher over there. Hey, I mean, regardless, I still have my supply of paper bags. But anyway, welcome to the Sports Crib. As you can see, we'll get our little commercial stuff out of the way here. You can subscribe and donate on our Cash App at $ JEK3. And hopefully, all of my little superstitions and everything will come to fruition and we'll have a great season. But I see Dave is back tonight, and he's been at training camp, so I know he'll have some good news for us, I hope. And I see, as usual, the Dapper Dan of Sports Crib, Mr. Bill Carroll, is here. How we doing tonight, Bill? See, Bill always comes with a sense of we can't hear you, Bill.
Here it is.
Okay.
All right, we got you now. All right, yes. So, Dave, how have you been?
Doing okay. You got me about an hour tonight.
Okay, well, we should be very uh, close to an hour. We don't have that many of us here, so we can kind of get some of the things out of the way. But since I started out with baseball, uh, Dave, what's going on? 14-0. Skynes threw, what was it, 2, 3 home runs? I mean, have they finally figured the youngster out or what?
Well, he still has an ERA under two. He has an ERA of 1.94, I think. But the problem is they went through the trade deadline. They lost Bednar and Cabrian Hayes. They're looking forward to 2026. They'll be lucky if they play 500 ball through the rest of the year. They've been under 500 for most of this season. And as I mentioned before, earlier in July, they have an all-time losing record as a franchise now, which they had not done that since 1905. But they have to invest in bats and try to. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to sign Scanes to a contract, or whether he decides to seek to go elsewhere in the future. And if the owner is not going to invest in supplying assets to support the pitchers, why stay?
Yeah, yeah, I think we all kind of agree on that. So, you know, but I hadn't really thought about mentioning it until that 14-0 came up. I'm like, what the. But Dave, well, no, let's start with Bill here because Bill is also a purist. Too bad Demetrius isn't going to be here tonight. But what did you guys think? We had the first female behind home plate, Miss Jen Powell. Thoughts, Bill? How far baseball has come?
Well, it's one of those things where when you realize that's true, you say to yourself, "Huh, why did it take so long?" It's not something that, like, it's one thing if you make it through Bud's training and become a Navy SEAL, right? There's certain reasons why it would be difficult, why it would take a long time for a woman to finally do that. Not impossible, right? But very difficult. Can be done. this is not something where you have to be some incredible physical specimen to do it. So it is a little surprising that it took this long, quite frankly. Uh, there's nothing particularly about being an umpire or a referee or a lines person, or I mean any of the things that involve, you know, judging what happens in a field of sports, whether it be tennis, soccer, football, baseball, basketball, or this, you know, any of the sports that would preclude women being successful. So, I mean, I'm glad it's happened, but I'm frankly surprised it took this long.
Dave, are you considering, baseball has always had a certain amount of uh, prejudice connected to the female. I mean, other than maybe, the ball girl, there wasn't a lot of female presence in Major League Baseball. Well, your thoughts? Do you concur with Bill?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, look at the pipeline. Look at the little leagues. Who are the umpires in all the little leagues? How many women do you see? Look at high school. Who are all the high school officials, the sports officials? How many women do you see? Look at college. How many college umpires are there? And look at the minor leagues. How many minor league women umpires are there? There's not that many. And so, really, to me, it's a matter of the pipeline. The only thing I'm interested in Jen Paywall is how good of an umpire is she. And for me, the fact that she's a woman, I don't care. What I care about is I want umpires and baseball officials and all sports officials to be competent at their jobs. And if it meant that we had 1,000 Russian officials officiating baseball because they did a really good job, not because they were Russian, but because they were good, effective officials, well, then I'd be all for having 1,000 Russians officiating baseball. So for Jen, I wish her all the luck. I want her to succeed, and maybe she will inspire even more women to volunteer for little leagues, volunteer for high school, volunteer for college, and in umpire minor leagues. And I'm sure that she's gone through this along with others.
Oh
But to
yeah.
me, it's a matter of numbers. How big is the pipeline? And the bigger the pipeline is, then I'm sure the more women officials that we'll see in the future. But I don't want it because they're women. I want it because they're good officials.
And I think other than that first pitch, I think after that she did pretty well. She got the jitters off like any other official, and I thought she did a pretty good job. I only watched a few innings, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
I mean nobody's perfect, and maybe eventually they'll have technology replacing the umpires behind the plate.
Well, I think we talked about that technology being introduced in some of the minor league games, but you know, uh,
I like the human factor, but still, I mean
yeah,
that's the trend.
Yeah.
well,
Robo umps would have been a real problem for certain pitchers, right? If you're Greg, Greg Maddux would have had a radically different career if there had been robo umps.
uh, but speaking of guys that have had a good career, we just had Daryl Strawberry's record for the Mets all-time home run. Just was broken by Pete. What's that? Alonso.
I love Pete Alonso. Yeah, Pete Alonso broke
Yeah,
it.
and then
So,
you also had Jose Ramirez. He set a record for Cleveland for he had what 27 uh, multiple game home runs.
yeah,
So I
most
mean,
homes.
we were talking about baseball and enjoying. Is hitting back in the game, Bill?
Well, I remember when Daryl Strawberry got called up from Jackson. Now, this is when this is before they, I guess, realigned the International League, because the team that was in my hometown, the Tidewater Tides, later the Norfolk Tides, are now affiliated with the Baltimore Orioles. But at the time, my hometown hosted the AAA franchise of the Mets. So I remember the excitement when Strawberry got called up from AA to AAA. He came up from Jackson, and immediately, everyone was super excited. First of all, when you looked at him, your first thought wasn't baseball, right? And of course, he filled out later, but I saw him at age maybe 20, maybe 21 at the most, probably about 20, when he first came up to AAA. And he was, like Eric Davis, he was a very fine basketball player. Both he and Eric Davis were terrific basketball players in high school. As we looked like. He looked like a two-guard, or maybe a very small forward. He was built like Sidney Moncrief.
He looked like Reggie Miller, didn't he?
Well, he wasn't quite that skinny. I would say Sidney Moncrief. Reggie Miller has wrists like my daughter. So no, not quite Reggie, but I mean, to be built like that. The guy was 6'7" and 177 pounds. God bless him. God bless him. But right. But back to Darryl Strawberry was built like Sidney Moncrief, though. He was built like a basketball player. And, I got a chance to see him a few times. He didn't stay in AAA too long, for understandable reasons. I think he played part of the end of one season, then almost all of the next season was a fall call-up next year. So probably just a little less than a year and a half, as memory serves me, in AAA. And I mean, he had a big loopy swing and he struck out a lot. But man, when he connected, wow! Oh, people use terms like buggy whip and stuff like that. I mean, he really, just despite the fact that he was maybe 187 pounds, stretched over probably about a 6'4" frame, he could drive the ball. I mean, his most impressive hits weren't his home runs. So he had some impressive. He would hit these line shots where like the fielders would catch it out of self-defense. The way you would see an infielder catch a hot liner, guys in the outfield would be snagging balls that would almost knock them off their feet. He would hit these balls that would be 4.5, 5 feet off the ground for 370 feet practically, right? Like no loop to them at all. It's like watching John Elway throw a football 70 yards where it's the same height the whole way. I had rarely seen people hit line drives like him. And then later he put more loft, I guess either intentionally because he's trying to get more home runs, put more loft in his swing, which I think made him even less efficient in terms of strikeouts. But seeing early, young Strawberry was inspirational. I was very lucky in that my junior high school and high school years was when that pipeline of talent that later led to that World Series run came through the Mets farm system. I saw all those guys. They traded David West to the Mets, but I saw almost all the rest of those guys that ended up. They got, and Howard Johnson came in that deal. But I saw Mookie Wilson come through. I saw some of the guys that came from trades. I saw pretty much everybody who was an important part of part of that Mets run towards that magical World Series year that should have been a dynasty. But those guys liked the nightlife in New York a little too much. But yeah, he was special. He was truly special. He could have become like a Willie McCovey type if he'd been a little more disciplined as a hitter. But he just loved swinging. He didn't like taking walks.
The shame of it is that early in Strawberry's career, there were people thinking that he was going to set not Mets records. He was going to set National League records.
All time records.
Yeah.
If he had been more disciplined, both on and off the diamond, that might have been a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, he really liked the nightlife when he got to New York. It was Darryl never saw a party he didn't like. He had somewhat of a reputation.
Yes.
But
well earned. For those who know a club called the Latin Quarters, the LQ as some people call it. He used to post up there a lot. shout out to my friend or Carlton Riddenauer, who you know as Chuck D. We follow each other on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now. He has some fantastic Darryl Strawberry stories, which he will not tell publicly, but he will tell in DMs if you get to follow him on Twitter or X or whatever.
Bill, this question is probably more for you because I'm sure that neither Dave nor I probably even had an idea. I mean, I know who he was because uh, Jeffrey Fan, of course, our ACC guy,
Yeah.
had talked about him maybe 2 years ago, I think, when he was a freshman or a redshirt freshman. I'm not sure which one it was. And then, of course, there was that big upset last year. Diego Parva
Pavia, yeah,
predicts,
Diego Pavia.
says that they're going, that Vandy is going to win a national title.
Now,
And he says that
first of
he's
all,
the best quarterback in America. Now, I'm
so
not going to think
so
about that national title part. But
okay,
is he? But how good a quarterback is
okay, yeah. So David, is your wife the most beautiful woman in the world?
Of course.
Of course, exactly.
he?
So I expect Diego Pavia to say what he said, right? The same way that David, without hesitation, said his wife is the most beautiful in the world. Because one, he has to sleep in his home at night. But two, he has come to see his wife as the most beautiful woman in the world. Diego Pavia, who started his career with Jerry Kill, right? Who, if not for epilepsy, might be one of the great coaches in coaching history. This guy has rebuilt and built programs over and over again, and unfortunately had his coaching career 3 or 4 different times sidelined by his epilepsy. I first ran across Coach Kill when he was at Southern Illinois years ago, and Nick Hill, who's now the coach, was his quarterback, and saw him battle it out with Joe Flacco in a playoff game. Got to see it in person. But the fact of the matter is that that's what you want from your quarterback, right? You want your quarterback to be. Is Joe Willie Namath in the Hall of Fame without the guarantee? Maybe, right? But I can promise you that guarantee and the heat that generated from it helped him to get in the Hall of Fame certainly faster than he would have otherwise. Confidence is part of what we expect from quarterbacks, right? If he says, "Gosh, I hope we go 7-6," we'd be tearing him a new one, right? I mean, like, you can't just say things that are just objectively true as an athlete. You have to believe. You have to. It's part of what allows you to go out and beat Alabama. If he did not believe irrationally in himself and in his team, they probably lose that game. He probably says, "Well, let's keep it close, boys," right? I mean, that's a great pregame speech to give. Hey, let's go out there and deny them a cover. I just saw the line. It's 15.5. You know, let's lose by 14. So I'm not mad at it, right? I mean, as a analytical, unemotional person, I can look at it and say, all right there. Okay, right. Okay, yeah, I get it. But that's what you want from the leader of your team.
Where do you rank him, Bill? I'm sure he's on your chart somewhere.
Yeah, amongst SEC quarterbacks.
As a whole, I mean,
Oh, okay. He's not quite as high amongst the whole, but he's got toughness. His throwing motion is it is quick, right? But it's not super powerful. He doesn't generate a lot of force. He has to throw with anticipation because he doesn't have a great arm. He's better, like most guys like him, short to intermediate as a passer. Anything over about 22-ish yards downfield is kind of iffy. But he's just a super competitor. He's super tough. He's basically like the guy he reminds me of is another guy in the same draft class, right? He's like a poor man's Hayes King, right? Smaller, not as polished, not as good, but a lot of the same sort of grit and guts and die on the field mentality. that allows him to do things he probably shouldn't be able to do. He's probably better suited for Canada or Arena. He might be able to be a backup. His ceiling is sort of like PJ Walker. Like if everything goes right, he could become, with some work, he could become a PJ Walker type backup.
Okay. All right.
Well, I tell you what, if he takes, they don't even have to win it. If he takes them to the national title game, I can tell you right now, I can predict without a doubt who the Heisman Trophy winner is in 2025.
Right. Yeah.
If he, I think if he beats Alabama again,
Well, it would take. I mean, you could still go 7-6 and beat Alabama, but if he gets them into the playoffs, he's going to at least be a Heisman finalist. I mean, that'll get you to New York if they, are 10-win team somehow and in the playoffs.
I was going to say, I mean, with the 16 game, 5-11, do you give Andy those kind of chances to get to the
I
playoffs?
mean, a lot of things would have to go their way, but what
Precisely.
helps them is they play up. I mean, the thing that hurts them, the thing that helps them, they play a very tough schedule. So if they can, have a winning record in the conference and win all their non-conference games, yeah, it could happen. I can't fully rule it out.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I'm kind of doubtful, but I get exactly what Bill is saying is true. If you don't have confidence, you're not going to succeed. Yeah, you have to have confidence in yourself. But the reality is Vanderbilt's not going to go to the playoffs. They're not going to go to the national title team. He might be a decent quarterback. We'll see. What I don't know, I've never seen him play really. And so I don't know, is he near the ceiling of his career, or is he still at the floor? Is he still a developing player? And that's a lot of things that you can't tell. There was the who was the Ohio State running back that won the Heisman 2 years in a row?
Archie
Well,
Griffin.
Maurice Claret was a special case.
And the thing is, though, and he ran into issues, but he peaked. He was at his peak.
Yeah, at 19 and a half years old, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, where, because with this kid, I mean, you have other quarterbacks. Look at Ben Roethlisberger. He came from a very small school, and he did very well. But he was still developing. He had room to develop, as did Terry Bradshaw way back in the day. It took Terry Bradshaw 4 or 5 years before he kind of figured out the NFL. Today, he wouldn't have survived. He would have been gone.
Right. They don't have that kind of patience anymore. Ryan Fitzpatrick is an amazing story, right? A terrific multi-sport athlete in Arizona, wants desperately one of the Arizona schools to pay some attention to him. The only Arizona school that pays any attention to him is Northern Arizona. Gets interest from the academies, Air Force, Army, Navy, and of course some of the Ivy League schools. Ends up at Harvard, has a terrific career at Harvard. But I mean, the consensus on him, and I talked to NFL scouts about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I was very plugged into what people thought about him, and people thought he might. Someone said his future might be as a general manager in the league, right? They thought, yeah, he'll be in a camp. He might hang around for a year or two, but this guy's future is on the other side of football, right? He's a bright kid, blah, blah, blah. The guy managed to have an extremely long NFL career, and, it came close to a record, I think. He's within a team or two of tying or he may be setting a record for the most teams played for in a career. And when he did play, he was exciting as heck. I mean, it wasn't always good, but it was never dull. I mean, that's the story of that's a real that's a real Rocky story, right? I mean, a more realistic one because Rocky would not win, but like he would make it tough, right? He would last 13, 14 rounds before he gets stopped on cuts. That would be a realistic story. That's the guy who's overcome like all the odds. Guys like that. I love seeing a guy. And right, he ran 4.77. That's not terrible. His arm was above average, not great, but above average. There's guys like him every year, but 99% of them, they're right. The guy's gonna hang around for 2 or 3 years and then go find what life really wants them to do. When a guy carves out a 14, 15-year career,
Dave, Bill kind of mentioned it, like the team that you always look out for, the team that you want to do well, and every year they kind of let me down. And I'm talking about my Pitt Panthers. What are we looking like this year, Dave?
Well, they're opening against Kent State, so that should be a win. Um, there's not a whole lot to say. I think that they had a great start last season. They started out like 7-0, and then they just
Yeah, then they just
sputtered out. And I think that the ACC has become more competitive, and it's going to be interesting. Can they win more than they lose? But I don't see them as having like an awesome team. I think that they might knock off some teams that are favored to beat them. But then they may lose to other teams that they're favored to beat. So, yeah, I wouldn't look for much out of Pitt. Penn State is a different story. Penn
uh,
State has potential, but
Penn State is what, number 3 in most polls?
Well, the AP they came out number 2 with Ohio State 3, but Penn State has to play Ohio State in Ohio, and the coach has an atrocious record against ranked teams. And so while they're ranked number 2 right now, I think that's a temporary basis. They're going to be, they got a lot of returning players. They got, is it Nicholson or Nichols, the running back?
yeah,
They got
really good running
Aller.
backs.
Yes, they got Aller at quarterback. Now the question
And
is,
they stole our OC.
yes, from Ohio State, right? And now the question is how do they replace Tyler Warren on offense, and on defense it's Abdul Carter? How do they replace it? Because those two were over and above. They were worth more than just one player. And so in the case of Warren, it's going to have to be the wide receivers. They do have an upcoming tight end,
Yep.
but that's not a replacement for Tyler Warren. They need the wide receivers to step up.
Right.
And I think with the front seven, it's going to have to be a combination. They're going to have to light a fire under the linebacker, as well as the defensive line to make up for the loss of Abdul Carter. So I see Penn State probably making the playoffs, maybe getting to the semifinals, but I don't see them as national finalists.
You were kind of skeptical last year too, Dave. But
And it came out basically the way
just the way you said. So
they but I was happy with their season. Penn State's a good program, but I would not put it up there with the very, very elite top programs.
okay, all right. Bill, what do you think is happening out west? With the big eight, was it the big 18? Talking about expansion. Are we going to see East and West, and possibly with the expansion of the SEC absorbing, some of these other? What do you think, Bill? Are we, getting closer to that 5 super conference level?
I don't know if they'll ever get to what some people are talking about. I do think that there might be 1 or 2 teams they're still, have their eye on. Every once in a while, you'll hear, noise from either Florida State or Miami. Now, Florida State might might not be in the best position to be demanding to move to the SEC if they can't even contend to the ACC. But that's I guess a story for another time. Miami hits a lot of what they're looking for. It's a major media market. They're an extremely well-known brand. And at least they've been competitive consistently the last few years. Florida State is not in a major media market. They're a fairly well-known brand, right? We're a traditional powerhouse, but people are expecting them to improve from 2023, 2024 to coming into last year. They're supposed to be better, and they were, I mean, woof. So I don't think it'll be quite this bad again this year. I don't think. I mean, first of all, Tallahassee will burn if they're this bad again this year. But they'll fire just everybody, like everybody. Everyone's getting fired. They'll fire the mascot. They'll fire everyone. But the FCC. First of all, who would you be targeting? Right? There's not that many left, that they still want. Like I said, Clemson, but Clemson has to deal with its, they have a pretty serious buyout the ACC is going to slap them with if they leave early. So they probably got to wait until the current grant of rights is out. Or, like I said, pay a pretty hefty penalty. I already mentioned Miami. Florida State is leaking oil.
Well, Mr. Scott has joined us, Bill.
Yeah, I'll just mention the only sort of up and comers. Now they just joined the ACC, but SMU, major media market, ludicrous amounts of financial resources. I mean, crazy, stupid money, and they're in Texas, right? So they down the line, not immediately, but years in the future could be a target. Oh, good, Don's here. He can opine on that. And last but not least, this is a dark horse. It's a dark horse because they're not in a major conference yet. But keep an eye on Memphis. Once again, it's a fairly decent sized media market. They play good football, pretty much all the time. You can pencil them in for 9 or 10 wins almost every year. They put a lot of guys in the league also. Now, once again, this would be in the future. They'd have to continue to build that program. They would need some money people to step up in the age of NIL and show that they're really serious. But the easier targets, the aforementioned Miami, Clemson, and SMU in the future, right? SMU has to show that they really belong at this level, but it looks like they do.
Don, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great. How y'all doing?
And I see Mr. Scott is here also. How you doing, Mr. Scott?
Very good. Very good. Good to see you, gentlemen.
Yeah. So
including JK3, no Demetrius, which is really great. But anyway, this is a great group, real great group. And I really, before I don't want to get started right now, but Bill, I wanted to ask you one question before we get going. And Bill, is there such a thing as a Pac-10 anymore?
Well,
of course not. It's the Pac-18.
Right. Technically speaking, yes. And
there's only two teams. There's only two teams, isn't it?
Well, no, there's
that's the Pac-12.
There's more than two teams. But here's what I will say. And this is any from any sources. This is just me talking. I think someday Stanford's going to come to its senses and go back for two reasons. One, they're not such a serious football school that it makes sense to make all your decisions based on football. They are a real powerhouse in a lot of revenue producing sports where the travel is really killing them. They're really good in tennis and swimming and diving. They're really good in, water polo. It doesn't make sense to do baseball is pretty darn good too. It doesn't make sense for them to be traveling all over hither, thither, and yon. I think at some point when their current deal is up, I see them going back, quite frankly.
Well, see, I think it's the other way around, Bill, because I think the Pac-12 will be absorbed because right now, if you look at it, it's like a team from not Hard Knocks, but what's the movie? I go way back. I think Burt Reynolds first, The Longest Yard. It's a prison system. Texas State, Idaho State, this state, that state.
It's tax. Hey, it's not the Pac-12. It's Pac
Sounds
state.
more like sounds more like a prison system. You know what I mean? You know, even though Texas State is even in there, you know, but you know, once again, showing the wildness of my youth, right? But anyway, so Don, how are things down there in Texas?
Very hot. Very.
Archmania,
What's that?
Archmania.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's always going to be there. I mean, I was listening to a talk show today, and they're talking about if he doesn't win the national championship, it's going to be considered a failure. I'm like, what? I said, Peyton never won it, Eli never won it, Archie never won it. But if he doesn't, so I'm going to tell you about Texas fans, my brothers and sisters and Longhorn Nation. There's some expectations that are unfathomable. I mean, these people are nuts. I love them, but they're nuts.
Oh, so Mr. Scott, are you convinced about Archmania?
Well, he's got the pedigree. He's going to get the shot. I mean, that's another interesting one. Him, Shador, these third generation people. I'm very interested to see how it plays out. I mean,
Mr. Scott, putting Arch Manning and Shador in the same sentence might be a little blasphemy. Don,
well, I mean, I'm talking about the pedigree. I mean, the Manning, Hall of Famers, Dion Hall of Famers, kids. I mean, so you can't deny that. I mean, I understand. You may not care for it. I understand that, but I bet he'll be a higher draft pick than Shador. I bet he'll be.
Oh no, you think? you think?
Well, wait a minute. I heard that Cleveland retired Shador's number after that first preseason game.
Yeah, they're getting ready to throw a ticker tape parade for him back in Colorado. But what's your thoughts there on the Arch Manning situation there, Dave?
Well, I mean, from my understanding, he's not coming out of the draft in 2026. And the only reason I would want him to is if Pittsburgh had a line in on him and had a deal that they were going to somehow grab.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
But without him coming out in the draft, which makes sense for he's going to make money right where he's at, and he'll probably just increase his stock over another year.
I think and this is as a Steelers fan, but I think the Manning would do the same thing with the Steelers that they did to the Chargers when Eli came out. It ain't gonna happen.
Oh no, I don't agree. I think that the Mannings from Tony Dungy, they like the Pittsburgh organization, and it's just like Jalen Ramsey was just saying the other day on the pivot. He says his career would be totally different if he had started out in Pittsburgh. He's very up on it, and I think the difference is that with Eli Manning, it was a matter of he didn't have confidence in that franchise. But I would think that the Mannings, doing their due diligence, they would kind of like the idea of Archie being in Pittsburgh.
Well, you made an interesting comment. I mean, so does Dungy still have any kind of contacts with Pittsburgh or with Tomlin that you might be aware of behind the scenes? Is that a possibility? I I don't know.
It's definitely to me it's a probability because one is Mike Tomlin was an assistant under Tony Dungy back in Tampa Bay. So they worked together. And Mike Tomlin is a big networker. He has a wide network of friends. So I don't have any personal knowledge of them going out to dinner or anything like that, but I'm sure that they have contact. They were former co-workers. Dungy was part of the reason he ended up getting an interview with Pittsburgh in the first place.
Well, I
Yeah,
would love to see it happen. I just don't
curious
see
about
it.
that.
You know, yeah, I mean, that was as soon as he brought up Dungy, I'm like, yeah, well, maybe it might be a possibility, but okay. Uh, Speaking of possibilities, Don, what the hell is going on in Dallas? I mean,
Ooh,
you have Jerry shelling out money to other players. I'll admit it's not the bag that Mike is seeking, but when you see all these other guys getting contracts, you got Dak making $60 million a year. You got Pickens coming over; he's got a decent contract, and here's Jerry fooling around with your contract. Is it a ploy to get more money? Is Micah really, disgusted with negotiations? Because word is that Jerry hasn't even talked to Micah.
yeah, yeah, that's crazy. That's what we're hearing too. But I'm sure their agents are talking, the lawyers are talking, but I just don't see. I don't see Micah being on the roster next year. I don't see it.
Mm.
Which is sad because I think I'd love to have him, but I mean I don't think it's going to happen. And I don't know if I got this where you're at, but come find out, Jerry Jones has been battling cancer.
Oh,
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't. I mean that's a sad thing too. I mean I'm not a big Jerry Jones fan, but I sure don't wish cancer on the guy. But
now
yeah, there's
does he have a son or daughter involved in the organization?
yeah
his
his
son.
son. His
Yeah,
son's his son is the GM, acting GM, but we know who's calling the shots.
but yeah, I mean, there was a talk about Jerry having some type of a miracle drug or something that has helped him because it's supposed to have been what, a 10-year long battle.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Uh, I will say, like he wasn't like most patients where he started looking like a shell of himself because if he hadn't said anything, he still looked like Jerry. I mean, there was no that dramatic weight loss or you didn't see his face shrinking or nothing. So I think that was one of the things that took the sports world, because you didn't see it. Where is everybody?
Right.
Everybody's
I'm here.
taking a break here. Okay. So let's talk about some of these other guys. Yeah, I was hoping that Reggie was going to be here. He said he was going to try to be late, but I know we only have Dave for a little bit too. So uh, where is it here? Because I wanted to ask you about a little more about this. Oh yeah, the quarterback Don Dalton Bland. He's looking for an extension too. What have you heard anything about his contract down there in Dallas?
I have not. Everything's been about everything I've been hearing is about Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones and his inability to spend money on quality things. So I haven't heard a whole lot about the other players.
Well, Danzel had a little word for Jerry too. He said that he thinks that Jerry's just thinking about his own pockets. and not putting the quality product on the field to win championships. You agree with Denzel, Don?
I there's some truth to that. I mean, think about the extremely wealthy people. Sometimes, they're in a spending mood. They just throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. Next thing you know, they're being misers. So there could be something to that. I just the person who can get inside Jerry Jones's brain and become the hamster on that wheel. That'd be a amazing thing to be. That hamster on the wheel.
Mr. Scott, come on back here. I want to talk to you too.
All right, bring it.
All right.
What you got? What you got? Let's do this.
We got a couple things here because what's going to happen? Who's going to replace Rondell Moore? He's been hurt for the second straight season. Jefferson is injured. Injury. He still has injury right now. What did you think about JJ's performance in the first game?
Well, I mean, this is a real Pittsburgh Tomlin type, spin on. Why are we talking about Rondell Moore? I mean, Rondell Moore, he's been
This
hurt
is second.
everywhere he's been. He's been hurt everywhere he's been. He comes here, especially he gets hurt. He comes and gets paid. We're not worried about no Rondell Moore.
Who's going to
Jay,
be? Who's your third guy? Who's your third wide receiver?
well, we have Jalen Naylor. Addison's going to have to sit out a couple of weeks because of, some trumped up charges, and he's going to have to sit out for a few weeks. So, but yeah, we're going to be fine. I mean, why Rondell Moore? He's an afterthought. I mean, he's hurt everywhere. He gets hurt in the first exhibition game. No, we're not concerned about Rondell Moore. And JJ, they're sitting him out. This is what they do with the top players. He's fine. He's practicing. He's doing everything. They're just don't want him to get into these kind of games and end up and be a Rondell Moore. He'll be back for the first game of the season. Everything's going to look good. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure but Rondell, no, he's an afterthought, Rondell Moore.
What's the injury to Jefferson?
Well, he's just sitting out, basically.
I thought he had a shoulder injury.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, but he's been on the sidelines doing talking, and he's fine. He's practicing. They do this with all the stars. I mean, Larry Bird used to sit out. Larry Bird used to sit out when it got to the end, and they play the guys for the. So this is just nothing new. He's a very valuable commodity. And so, yeah, he's not going to, exhibition games, not important.
Are you looking for some wide receivers up at the trade, even though the trade line is over with?
Well, it's a possibility if somebody pops up, but
I
right
mean,
now,
like you said, Addison is suspended for 3 games or whatever, and uh, not like you said. I mean, Rondell was a veteran. I mean, it was
veteran hurt veteran. He was hurt on the other team he was in. He's this is just this is a distraction. You're bringing up it's a hoax. Rondell. He wasn't going to be much of a contributor. So our team is looking good. And why don't you talk more about J.J. McCarthy, how he looked in the first game? Why don't you talk about that? You don't want to talk about that, do you? You don't even want to bring that up, do you? You don't want
that's your team. That's your team. That's the reason why I asked you. I give you, I give you the floor to talk about your team. I mean, well, okay. Where's Bill? Where's Bill? Because I want to talk about the Bears.
Well, you're deflecting now. There's a man that's in call 47. He deflects too. You're doing some of the same type of tactics.
So, to touch briefly upon the situation at wide receiver, watch for Jalen Naylor to step up.
Yes.
He showed some things in his chances he got to play previously. I think Ty Felton has some promise to him. I'm not crazy about. I mean, obviously you have Justin Jefferson, who's a once in a lifetime player, but
Hawkinson, and they have a couple other tight ends that are good. And Hawkinson is a great
the tight
receiving
end group is good. They have a really impressive running back rotation. Jordan Mason's a really good player who, filled in admirably when he was with the 49ers.
Yeah.
When Christian McCaffrey, in fact, they had a spate of injuries because at one point McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell went down and Mason got pressed into service and did quite well. Ty Chandler is a tremendous speed guy, 4.39 40 type guy. Who's not great at everything. He's not great at blitz pickup, but he's really good at turning the corner on people. He can catch the ball a little bit. Aaron Jones is a really good full service running
But
back.
I think he's hurt. I think Aaron Jones might be.
But he's it's not like it's a season-ending injury or something. He'll be able to return.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. Hold out these veterans. Hold out these veterans in the preseason. In spite of what James King says and all that, try to critique people. They're holding these people out, ready for when the bell rings. They'll be ready when the bell rings.
My bigger concern is right guard. Will Fries is nothing special. Henry Bird is, a backup for a reason. Michael Gonzalez may not even make the team. Right guard is probably one of the weaker spots on the team, and if they suffered any sort of injuries at right guard, they would be in bad straits. But for the most part, I see it as a fairly solid team, particularly on offense. I have some questions about depth on defense as well, but the offense, with the exception of what I just mentioned, should be fine.
Well, Bill, I want to ask you about the Bears.
Sure.
What do you think about this new generation of McCaskies? Can they save the Bears? And what
Well,
did you think about Duncan? Declan Doyle's comments on Caleb Williams that he needs more reps.
Right, he'll get them. He'll get more reps. Ownership groups don't save teams. Ownership groups either hurt the team or are neutral, right? What you want from your owners is for them to be neutral, right? You want them to hire good people and then watch the people. Like Jeffrey Lurie is a good owner, not because he's active, but because he is inactive, right? That's what makes him such a good owner, because he hires good people and stays the hell out of their way. So,
but wasn't that what the McCaskies did?
Well, not all the time. And I think this new generation is probably going to be a little more hands-off. I think that obviously, Papa Bear Hallis was very hands-on, and his daughter, Virginia, not too surprisingly, though she wasn't as hands-on as her father, at times could be more involved than maybe you may want your ownership group to be. I think if you're two things. I think that they're open to selling, at least some of them. That'll be the interesting question is, will the open to selling portion of the family, because they've already sold off parts of the team, right? None of the family-owned teams are 100% family-owned. They all have sold off pieces of the team. The Rooney's have sold off pieces of the Steelers. The Browns have sold off pieces of the Bengals. And, of course, because, once again, we talked about this before, when you don't have something else, you aren't in oil, you're not in real estate, you're not in whatever else, that some of these other people were, who then bought a football team. When your football team is the thing, the way you generate revenue and extra income is by selling off pieces of the team. But luckily, the team isn't always appreciating assets, so they're going to be fine. I think the newer generation of McCaskies have realized they don't want to be that involved, and so that by itself might be an improvement. The only question now is Ryan Poles the right person for the GM job, and is Kevin Warren the right person for the president, executive, the top CEO and president role? If Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles are the right guys, then everything else will work out, right? Because they'll hire the right coaches and they'll bring in the right players. Like I said, the reason that the Hunts and the Luries and whoever else we feel the top ownership groups are so good is because they provide resources and that's it. Right? That's all. That's the list of things they do. Provide resources. And then, show up when it's time to lift up a trophy. That's all you want from your owners. The problem comes, and I won't name any names, but when the owners are too involved, when they want to have their fingers on everything and touch everything and play with everything and, have their own podcast and have their own press conference and, break down tape, that's when you get into trouble.
Well, Dave, since you said you had to go in about an hour, I'm going to let you give us this critique here because I got some real questions here. Like, for instance, what is this thing about Cam Hayward? I mean, we just went through the same thing, more or less, with T.J. Watt. Now here comes him. But so I'm going to give it to you like this. First of all, let's talk about the progress, according to the critics, of our left tackle, Mr. Broderick Jones. I've been very hard on him. Uh, what's next with, like I said, Cam Hayward and this hold in? And then you have Joe Tanzi from the Bleacher Report. He predicts, again, kind of following my predictions, that DK Metcalf will be a, a bus candidate for 2025. Uh, and, as I said, I kind of wholeheartedly agree. But what's going on with Roderick and Cam, and then you can get into
Yeah,
DK.
I'll talk about Cam first because actually the Metcalf situation may be related with Broderick Jones, and I'll explain that in a second. But basically, what's happening with Cam Hayward is last year he negotiated a contract, and really what he was looking for was stability. Let me make sure that I have money through the 2026 season. And so he cut a deal. Now, what's happened since then, and he didn't get like a whole lot of new money out of that. But the key to that deal was it kind of guaranteed him pay through the 2026 season. Now, Cam Hayward, somebody's mic is live. I'm not sure whose,
I'm trying to
but
see who it is. I think it might be Bill.
oh, there we go. So what Cam Hayward says is that whenever he negotiated his contract last year, part of what he said is, well, hey, if I go to the Pro Bowl, I'm going to be renegotiating my contract. And everybody kind of laughed it off. Well, not only did he go to the Pro Bowl, he was all pro last year. Now he's like the number 22 paid defensive lineman. And performance-wise, he's actually worth a lot more. So he's saying, well, I want to be paid what I'm valued. And now at age 36, he proved that he could play last year. And I think that this is his last opportunity to make some money for his family. So I think what he wants is let me get a little bit more money based on what I contributed last year. And probably we're going to see that 2026 will be his last season. He'll play this year in 2026, which he's already contracted for, but he's just trying to get some extra money out of it. On the part of the Steelers, well, they probably feel that, hey, we signed you to a contract through 2026. Why you should have done this last year? So this is a negotiation, and what's happening right now is both sides are using the court of public opinion. So whenever you start to hear Adam Schefter or any of these pundits saying, oh, well, this is what's happening, well, depending on who the news favors, that's probably the opposite side leaking this, or that's the side that's leaking the story. And so a lot of fans are actually giving Hayward grief, but I think in part it's because of some leaks that have probably come out through the team, giving their side of the story without attribution. And at the same time, there's stories that are coming out supporting Hayward. I think what's going to happen is that before week 1, he's going to sign a deal. He's been talking about, hey, I might have to miss some games and this type of stuff. That's a negotiation tactic, and they're using this. It's starting to air in public, is what's happening. I think at the end of the day, he's going to be signed before week 1. In terms of him, he's been going to all the meetings. I saw him. He's at all the practices. He's not dressed. He's not participating in the team drills, but he's there, and he's talking to all the players. He goes up. He talks to Mike Tomlin. So it's not as if this is an angry discussion. As the Italian families would say, it's just business, just business. So that's Cam Hayward. So we'll see. Now, if week 1 comes and he's not signed, now it becomes a problem because the Steelers have a long-held policy. Once the season starts, they stop negotiating. They're done. And that will test that because he's the captain and he's very much one of the big faces of the Steelers. Now with Broderick Jones, the thing with Tanzi, he's saying, let's talk about Tanzi first. Tanzi is saying, DK Metcalf is going to be a bust. Well, okay, if he's right, then he's going to be telling everybody at the end of the season, see, I predicted it. The problem is Tanzi's like 50-50. Sometimes he gets it right, sometimes he gets it wrong. Most pundits see DK Metcalf as getting somewhere between 950 and 1,000 yards, maybe getting 6 or 7 touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And so that's, maybe that's not an all-pro season, but it's not a busted season either. Now, I think the key to that is, and a lot of pundits agree with that's kind of what they're anticipating. If you were looking at over-unders, those are probably what the over-unders are for DK Metcalf in this upcoming season. Now, where Broderick Jones comes into this is that if Broderick Jones and Troy Fautano fail at right tackle and left tackle, well, DK Metcalf could be a bust because no quarterback's going to have time to get the ball to him. And that could be a problem. Now, Mike Tomlin says that both of them have been developing nicely. Alex Kozora, that's been at all of the public practices, says that Broderick Jones has looked solid. He looked good in the preseason game. And in his interview with Broderick Jones, the way he described himself is, well, number one, it's taken me some time because I played all these games at right tackle. And through repetition, I was getting muscle memory. This is the way I learned how to play. Now I have to unlearn that and get the muscle memory through repetition to play left tackle. And he's basically saying is what Mike Tomlin and what Pat Meyer are looking for, consistency out of him. And he says that right now, he feels pretty good. He's not where he needs to be, but he feels that he's progressing in the right direction. And both the offensive line coach and Mike Tomlin have both kind of endorsed that, saying, we're pleased with his progress. So that's kind of where Broderick Jones lies. And again, he was a very young draft pick. And, a lot of times we don't have a lot of patience. If they don't develop into a Pro Bowl player or if they're not an adequate starter after 2 seasons, we're ready to discard them. And some players need a little bit more time. And I think that Broderick Jones, number one, is he played in a position he didn't play much in college. And actually, he didn't play all that much in college, period. But he was mostly left tackle as opposed to right tackle.
But what about our inconsistency at quarterback? Don't you think that might have kind of stunted his growth also?
At quarterback?
I said, what about our inconsistency at quarterback? Don't you think
Well,
that?
where that could impact him is and you could when I attended the practices last week, I could really call it. It's the snap counts. It's the quarterbacks that are making the calls. And Aaron Rodgers, in the crowd, you could hear him clear as a bell, calling his signals, and he really has a strong voice, and it gets out there. Mason Rudolph, you could hear. But when you would get to a Will Howard before he got hurt, or Skylar Thompson, you could barely hear them. And so, yeah, I mean, depending on who the quarterback is, that's going to impact the linemen. And last year, where Broderick had a problem was on the snap counts. There's a couple snap counts that he jumped on, but then there were other snap counts where he was standing still for half a second while everybody else was moving. So a lot of people attributed that to he wasn't up on the snap counts, but it could have very well been to what you're saying. It could have been a matter of, with the different quarterbacks going from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson, he was having problems adapting to their snap counts. And Bill's probably very familiar with that. It's the offensive line is an interesting thing. It's not like the skill positions. They have to play as a unit, but they're also relying on that quarterback because there's constant communication going back and forth between the center and the line and the quarterback. The center is communicating with the quarterback, and the quarterback's communicating with the rest of the line.
See, in today's football, I kind of think that's a misnomer because I think the skill position is the offensive line, and the other team, I mean, it's not like it used to be 3 yards and a cloud of dust,
right?
So I mean, I mean, to me, it takes a lot of skill for a guy 365 pounds or 340 pounds to pull, to know when. I mean, to me, those are large men.
Yeah, and they're not only large men, they're smart men. Whenever they used to make the Wonderlic scores public, and a lot of the offensive linemen would be right near the top on their Wonderlic scores, and so the offensive linemen are pretty smart dudes, and as a group, not all of them, but as a group, but they have to be able to work as a unit, and they're depending on that communication with the quarterback.
Well, I know you said you had to go early, Dave. So you want to give us your final thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, what I wanted to mention is that somebody that passed away today was Lionel Taylor. And who Lionel Taylor was is he was a wide receivers coach with the Steelers that Chuck Noll hired. And he was the first black assistant coach that the Steelers had since Lowell Perry in the 1950s. And in the 1950s, whenever the Steelers hired Lowell Perry, he was the first African-American assistant head coach ever in the NFL. But that was never really advertised or anything. They did it because he was a smart guy that had a devastating injury as a rookie, and Art Rooney made a commitment to help the guy out, who eventually became the EEOC commissioner, who was appointed by Richard Nixon. But with Lionel Taylor, Chuck Noll hired him, and when he hired him, he was kind of asked, well, what are your motivations? How come you're hiring this guy? And it was kind of the question, it was kind of like a race-based question. But they were kind of pushing him on. And Chuck Noll's answer is, I hired him because he was the best qualified. When I interviewed him, he was pointing out deficiencies in the way our passing game was going because we weren't fully utilizing the field with our passing game. And he pointed out stuff that I didn't know about my own team. And Chuck Noll also had a history with them because when Chuck Noll was an assistant coach with the Chargers, Lionel Taylor was a pretty good wide receiver with, I think, Denver. And so I can't hear you, Bill. I hope you're agreeing with me, but um, so Chuck Noll knew of him in the past, but Chuck Noll hired him because he was the best, and that was Chuck Noll's point of view. Now, Lionel Taylor went on to be hired by the Rams and became the first African American offensive coordinator in the NFL. So he kind of has a legacy to the NFL, and he passed away. I think he was somewhere in the Southwest, like New Mexico or Arizona. But just a little footnote in NFL history that I wanted to place there since it was Steelers related.
All right. Well, hey, Dave, as always, appreciate your time, man, and look forward to talking with you next week.
Yeah, and hopefully Sue will have a Sue's Corner. It's been a little bit crazy for us the last
Yeah.
couple months.
How's your son? The one that was in the hospital. I know the other one's on his.
He's back home and he's on the recovery trail. So
Yeah,
we're very happy. And my other son got married, so we
yeah.
were
I know
having
he's on his
we were
honeymoon, so I know there's
so hey, many thanks, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Have a good one, Dave.
Take care.
Yeah. Don, as somebody that's played against some of the best in college, what do you think about the offensive linemen? As I said, I remember, we used to, call the wide receivers and all those. I mean, those were considered the skill players. But when you look at today's game and how it's changed, what do you think? I think I got you muted, dude. Let me see. I think we got you now.
All right. So, just a little personal history. So, I look at my the offensive line we had at Texas, and I was friends with all of them. And I'm gonna go from left to right. So, one's a missionary. Okay. The right tackle is a missionary. The right guard, engineer. The center, engineer. The left guard, attorney. Left tackle, doctor. What does that tell you? I mean, now on the other side of the line, the um, defensive linemen just weren't that smart. I mean, I know. In fact, I know one of them spent some time in jail. Of course, Shane Dronette, he had a good career with Denver and Atlanta, and he ended up having the CTE condition and ended up killing himself, unfortunately. Shane was a crazy. I mean, he was nuts, but he wasn't very sharp sometimes. So yeah, so you can look at the offensive linemen and just say, hey, yeah, those guys are bright. And my dad, who coached for many years, used to tell me that head coaches who had been offensive line coaches, position coaches, usually didn't pan out because they just assumed that the entire team is as smart as the guy he'd been working with, and that's not necessarily the case. So I think there's some truth to that statement.
Mr.
Now
Scott,
the goofiest guys were the place kickers and punters. Those guys were nutty. So
uh, Mr. Scott, what do you think about that? The way that we talk about offensive linemen. Uh, what do you think? Do you think that time has passed? When we don't consider that the skill position.
I really don't. What they have that responsibility to protect that quarterback, which is the most valuable asset on the team. And so, no, I think, as a matter of fact, I think it's being reflected in the paychecks that they're getting now. I think that they're holding a lot of the linemen, offensive linemen in particular, in high esteem, and actually on the defense also. And they've really kind of devalued the running backs. Running backs are now, they don't really want to pay the running backs. They don't, and they really do it by committee now. They do more running back by committee. You don't have workhorses. You don't have the Peytons. You don't have the Adrian Petersons. You don't have the Herschels. You don't have those kind of workhorse running backs anymore. So it's all in the line and protecting the quarterback, and so that they can have time to throw the ball down the line. No, I think it's very valuable that the line is both offensively and defensively.
Bill, since we both played on the defensive side of the ball, what's your thoughts, on the skill of these offensive linemen? I mean, you got, linemen pulling and then, you're getting off two blocks, one on the line of scrimmage and then another one 7, maybe 10 yards down the field.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. When you think about some of the great teams of all time, and I'll go back to the Raiders. The Raiders were the team, of course, I disliked the most intensely as a child because, one, they were the team that usually ended up, in the way of the Steelers, and two, they literally were like a biker gang playing football. Everything about them felt dirty and dangerous. So, but the heart of their offense, and they had good quarterbacks, they had good running backs, and they had terrific wide receivers. Two of whom have now made the Hall of Fame. One of their tight ends has made the Hall of Fame, and they had solid running backs in those days as well. Maybe not Hall of Fame, but solid running back. But the heart of their offensive line, and anybody will tell you, was they had a Hall of Fame center, right? They had Jim Ringo, and then they had two of the greatest offensive linemen at their positions in the history of ever, right? I mean, Art Shell and Gene Upshaw were enormous for their era. One was 285 pounds at a time when a lot of guys were 260, 270. And then when you caught one of them, he might be flirting with 300 at a time when 300 was rare. But no matter what they weighed, they both could move. You would see those guys, they just had pull out and wipe out people, and then get to the next level, wipe out some more people. And the only issue was that sometimes their running backs, depending which one it was, Clarence King or whatever, Kenny King or what's that, Sea of Hands, Clarence Davis, might keep up. But some of those other guys like Marv Hubbard and later Mark Vagan would struggle to keep up with them because they were faster than they were. So they had truly a great offensive line. And, of course, that's why they were able to do what they were able to do to, my friend beneath me, to the north, geographically, but beneath me today. The reason that the Purple People Eaters got manhandled so badly is because they had built around speed and maneuver. And when they met up against a large line like the Raiders that was still able to move but had so much more size, it was just unfair.
Not to cut you off, but remembering that game where Sammy White went across the middle, and I can't think of the name of that defensive back, and I thought he knocked Sammy's head off because the helmet went flying, and I thought his head was still in the.
Yeah.
Lester Hayes.
Yes, correct. They had a bunch of headhunters back there.
Jack,
they had a guy
Jack Tatum, George Atkinson.
Williamson.
Skip Thomas, George Atkinson, of course, the assassin, Jack Tatum. They were, like I said, they were like a biker gang. Everything about them was dirty and dangerous. When you think about football, most of what you do on a football field are things that humans have done throughout human evolution naturally, except the offensive line. Humans have run and caught things and thrown things for millions of years, but you cannot find a cave painting of anyone kick sliding anywhere. Don, I challenge you to try to find it. I bet you can't find a single brush block. I bet you can't find a single reach block anywhere in a hieroglyphic, anywhere on a stone, on a carving. It is the most unnatural of all the things that anyone does on a football field. The only person that does unnatural things, in fact, on a football field, things that humans don't do, are the offensive line, right? All the other stuff, running and chasing and catching and throwing, are things that humans do normally, right? Without any sport needing to be imposed upon. The only ones that do things that are completely sport specific to this sport and only this sport are offensive linemen. So I have nothing but respect for them. I don't know if I could do it. It is a selfless, thankless, hard, and frankly, the only time you notice them usually is they do something bad, right? I mean, they either have to be absolutely amazing. You might notice something amazing or something bad. But if they just do their jobs the way they're supposed to do their jobs, you don't even notice.
Don, what do you think about the? I know I usually ask you about the Texans, but what do you think about your division this year? Commanders, last year they were a surprise. This year, are they still going to come in ahead of Dallas? Or, I mean, Dak says he's in the best, some of the best shape that he's ever been. What's going on? Are the Commanders still, I would say, second in charge of your division right now?
No. Well, I think the Commanders. I mean, if you're asking if they're going to be better than Dallas this year, yeah, they will. Especially if Dallas doesn't have Micah Parsons in on the roster. It's going to be a long year for Dallas. But think about the Commanders. They're a team on the upswing. I mean, their ceiling is pretty high. I think. I don't think they're going to knock off Philly, but when you're looking at having the Giants and Dallas in your division, I think they're definitely the number two. And they played Philly twice. It would not surprise me if they'd pull off an upset of Philly and win those games. Probably the home game. Um, but yeah, I'm good with the Commanders. Um, I think they're legit. I think they're set at quarterback right now. They got some good young guys coming in. So hats off to them. I always hated the Commanders, aka Redskins, whatever they call them. But I have to give credit where it's due.
Well, I heard they're
Mr.
going
Scott?
back to the Redskins. Are they going back to the Redskins? I thought I heard some rumblings about that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
there's several Native American groups that won it back. So who
Yeah, I heard
knows?
some rumblings. Yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
who
uh,
knows?
Mr. Scott, who's a team that you kind of maybe looking out for in on the NFL side there,
Well,
NFC side?
yeah, I guess I have to stick with the Vikings. I mean, with their defensive
Well, they
coach.
got to play somebody to get to the national championship. Who they going to play?
Well, that it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is the toughest division. I mean, in the thing. I mean, really, I've seen, some of the shade tree pundits have even picked the Bears to be ahead of the division. And so, I mean,
Yes.
I think it's a real tough deal. We really have to see what JJ can do. I mean, I liked what he did in the first, it's the exhibition. I mean, he showed that he's a really good hander offer. I mean,
Yes.
and that's what he did in
You
Michigan.
mean game manager? You trying to say the man is a
great
game manager?
hander, great hander offer. Really good. Followed through, but he looked good. Completed some passes. We didn't have Anders. I mean, JJ. So I'm looking for the Vikings, really. I mean, and then I don't know what's going on with Baltimore. I mean, they're past their. I mean, I don't know. They should be winning on that AFC side. They. But then this Mr. Stinky Leg at Kansas City, that's what I call him. Somehow he hoops and hops, runs around the end, hopping and hooping, and they get it done in Kansas City. But I think it should be Baltimore's time this year. I mean, this is the thing with Lamar and what they should be their time. I'd love to see them and the Vikings in the Super Bowl. You heard it here. You heard it here.
Well, I don't have the aspirations of the Steelers getting to the Super Bowl, but I'm going to ask Bill since Mr. Scott mentioned the AFC, Buffalo, Kansas City, or the Ravens. Who are we going to see?
Well, I mean, the Ravens, as was mentioned, have the best roster in the AFC. But they've had the best roster, or
for the
really had a
last
good
3 years.
roster. Yeah, they had a really good roster for a while. So I am one of those, I'll believe it when I see it people. Everyone keeps talking about Buffalo. And, it's last year before. I've heard this song before. I'm not going to believe in Buffalo until they make me believe. The Ravens, I'm a little more sold on, but I still need to see them when all the chips are on the table, beat Kansas City. So I'm sticking with one more year. I've got one more year. I'm still sticking with Kansas.
Oh goodness! Oh
Because
my God!
until once again, until you beat the champ. You can speculate all you like. We like speculation; it's fun, but they haven't done it, right? We haven't done it. I remember 2 years ago hearing the Chargers were going to overtake them in the West. Remember those? Remember those days? Just the Chargers will overtake them in the West. I'm old enough to remember that. So I'm going to take the classic wait and see attitude. But what I will say is, while it might not be quite the AFC North, the NFC North, the AFC West is going to be tough. The Ravens we talked about. So the Raiders are going to be better. The Raiders are going to be a better team than people think. The Raiders are going to probably flirt with 500 this year. The Chargers are a double-digit win team, right? Also, the Broncos are probably an 11 or so win team. So they're going to have a tough go just getting out of their own division. It's a tough division. It's up there, right? It's up there with the NFC North. Those are two of the toughest divisions.
So, who are your two Super Bowl? Way too early, since Mr. Scott already got the Vikings and the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Like I said, for one last year, I'll still roll with the Chiefs. I think they have to sort of retool after this run because a lot of their best players are getting towards the downside of their career. But I'm going to go with a team from the NFC North, but not quite yet for the Vikings. They're a team on the rise, and definitely not quite yet for the Chicago Bears, who are at least I think 2 years away at least. And I think Detroit takes a step back, though they'll still be a playoff team. I'm going to say the Packers. I think the Packers really emerged this year. They just have to stay healthy on their defensive side, right? The last few years, we talked about the Lions got ravaged on defense last year, but the last 2 years, key injuries down the stretch have also hurt Green Bay on defense. If their defense can stay healthy, they should be probably about a 12-5 team, and I think they'll get hot at the right time.
Oh, okay, so we have the Vikings and the Ravens. We have the Packers and Kansas City. Don, who do you have?
I'm going to go with Philly and Buffalo. I think Buffalo, but Buffalo, they've been, around the top for a while. They haven't been able to knock off Kansas City, but it's sometimes when you grab enough rebounds, you end up putting a shot in. So I think they've been around the rim enough. I think they'll make the Super Bowl finally. Will they win it? I don't think so, but I think they'll get there. They'll summon the ghost of Marv Levy and probably lose.
Yeah,
Marv is 100 years old now.
Yeah, he turned up at
he's alive?
Oh, he's very much alive.
He was at the Hall of Fame game.
He's the oldest living Hall of Famer, Dodd. He's the oldest living Hall of Famer.
He turned 100 at the Hall of Fame. He showed up.
Oh, my God. I thought he had passed. I'm sorry. Oh, I feel like
the pride of Lane Technical High School here in Chicago, Illinois, where he was a 3-sport star at Lane Tech High School.
Okay, let's see. Bill, you want to give us your final thoughts?
Sure. Someone said Lionel Taylor was a pretty good receiver. They undersold it tremendously. He was the team MVP a couple of times. He was one of the best players in the old AFL. He spent 1 year with the Chicago Bears, miscast as a linebacker, believe it or not. I'm not joking. Look it up. He played linebacker, a reserve linebacker for the Bears. Then he goes wisely to the AFL where they know what to do with him. And there he led the league in receptions for 5 out of the first 6 seasons that it existed. He should be in the Hall of Fame, quite frankly. He was the no one, in fact, has done that since. 5 out of 6 years, he was number one in receiving. Jerry Rice never did that, right? That's how good he was as a receiver. He was the third receiver in the history of football to get to the 500 reception mark, the third in the history of the game to do it, right? From New Mexico Highlands, was a big receiver with speed, 6'2", 215 pounds, ran the 100-yard dash in about 9.7, 9.8 seconds. So he had size and speed, sort of comparable like Terrell Owens, but without all the extra. And at the time that he retired, I mean, he was very, very near the top of name something in terms of receiving. And like I said, I've made the case for him in the past to be a Hall of Famer. But he was the team MVP 63, 64, and 65. An AFL All-Star 61, 62, and 65, back when that still really meant something. And when they put together the all AFL team, Lance Allworth, Charlie Hennigan, and he were the 3 wide receivers, the all AFL all-time team wide receivers. Like I said, the man should probably be in the Hall of Fame, but at least you get more Hall of Fame consideration. But my final thought is of someone who passed away this day in 1995. One Mickey Charles Mantle from Commerce, Oklahoma, 5'10" and a quarter, 188 pounds in his prime. And he was one of the fastest and most powerful players of all time. And if not for the fact that he, and Willie Mays overlapped almost their entire careers together, he would have been undoubtedly the best player of his era. But he had Mays to deal with, so he was probably the second best player of his era. And we talked a lot about Darryl Strawberry, and though, crack cocaine or whatever, freebase was not an issue, he unfortunately came from an alcoholic family. His father died young of alcoholism. His father was in his early 40s when he died. One of his sons, unfortunately, died of alcoholism, and though he got sober in the last 13, 14 months of his life, it was a little too late. He died of liver cancer at the age of 63 in 1995. But when people coin the terms like five-tool player, and we talked deservedly about Roberto Clemente in the past and, Willie Mays in the past, the other person who's on that Mount Rushmore of five-tool players is, once again, Mickey Charles Mantle. He had it all. And if not for a combination of injuries and alcoholism, his incredible career would have been more incredible. When we talk about Triple Crown years, a couple people have had like Triple Crown years, but he had a Triple Crown year that is like one of the Triple Crowniest of Triple Crown years. In 1956, he hit 353. He had 52 home runs and 130 runs batted in. He was an all-star 16 out of 20 seasons that he played. And let me rephrase that. He was selected 20 times. He played 16 times in the All-Star game. He was a Gold Glover with a career .954 fielding percentage and was 12 times in the World Series. It is difficult to imagine what he might have been if he had, one, taken care of himself, and two, had not suffered several debilitating injuries. He was, in fact, 4F. He wasn't drafted. He didn't serve because he wasn't eligible to serve. Which people thought was crazy when they saw him, running around the base paths and chasing balls in the outfield. But he had problems with his legs and couldn't pass the exam, so he was considered 4F, which, like I said, seems strange to people. But he was in pain much of his playing career, and that may have also tied into his alcoholism. But I think it more had to do with genetics and just the culture of drinking that was so prevalent in baseball at the time. But he was truly, he's once again one of those Mount Rushmore types, or certainly pushing to be one of those Mount Rushmore types. And if not for Willie Mays, he would be probably acclaimed as the best player of that era.
Mr. Scott, let's get your final thoughts here.
I guess I'll just follow that cab with Bill, and when he talks about Mickey Mantle, that's the very first professional game when the Twins came to Minnesota in 1961 from Washington. My dad takes me to see the Yankees, and my dad, with his books, he had a press card, so we could run around the stadium. We could, So I'm there we were there for batting practice. And I just looked at these two guys standing there, number 7 and number 8, with their bats on their shoulders. And, I mean, their shoulders seem so wide. I mean, it just seems like, man, these guys are superhuman. And so I sat there at the batting practice and I saw the whole team: Clete Boyer, Bobby Richardson, Mel Stoudemire, Whitey Ford, Hector Lopez, Elston Howard. I mean, it was just it's almost like a dream when I think about it to actually see that, how that was. And that's how much baseball meant to me back then, me and my brother. That's all we did was baseball. And then that same year, the Vikings come. And so I remember all of the guys that, they had a lot of ragtag guys that they picked up from other teams. But there was one of the first games, Fran Tarkenton, and they had the Vikings had this old quarterback, George Shaw.
Yes.
And so they were playing the mighty, I'm talking about the Chicago Bears, monsters of the Midway, George Halas on the sidelines. This was the real deal. And so George Shaw couldn't get it done. He puts Fran Tarkenton in. He starts running around in circles, and they beat the Bears in that game. It was just one of the most unbelievable upsets, really, and probably in sports when you think of it at that time. But I just point that out from the standpoint of what sports has meant to me and my brother growing up, because that's all we did. He followed me around to baseball. I had to babysit him. My parents had to wait till they get home. They didn't get home late. I had to put him on my bike to go to baseball practice. Otherwise, if I'm late, I got to run around the park. So I'm running around the park, and he's playing with the team because they need an extra guy. He's there, and he ends up playing in college. He ends up playing baseball in college, being a great outfielder at Alabama State, being a coach. The city of Minneapolis baseball teams, one of the greatest coach at Minneapolis Central baseball player. So I don't know. So I'm just thinking about when pros came here. It was such a big deal to be 10 or 11 years old, and all of a sudden, all we had was the University of Minnesota, and the big deal was Sandy Stevens being the quarterback in the Rose Bowl. Being the quarterback, that was the big thing, the University of Minnesota. So, it just kind of brought up some of those memories to me. And so I just thought I'd share that for what it's worth.
We used to have and I know we all remember this because we're all old enough. But remember when you had the little football game, you plugged it into the wall and yeah. My my first team was the Minnesota Vikings, Mr. Smith. Mick Tigglehoff was my best guy. He would go backwards and go around. But hey, just some of those old memories. The old vibrating football.
Yeah.
Come on, take us home, man.
Uh-oh.
Did you say me?
Yeah,
there we go. Yes, go ahead, Don.
Take us home.
Oh, okay. So, not really a thought, just something. Sometimes I get bored and I go to Netflix and I watch stuff. I finally watched this documentary called Any Given Saturday about the SEC. And it was, it's stuff I knew, stuff that I kind of get, a view of certain players that I've kind of followed, like Diego Parva, for quarterback for Vanderbilt. That guy has a remarkable story. But so I was watching with my wife, and my wife is, she's from another country, and she's not very politically correct. If it's in her head, she says it. So they were showing this video of the Texas A&M Yale leaders before they played Texas. And if y'all ain't about the A&M Yale leaders, yeah. And she turns to me and she's like looking at him like, what? Because they have like the A&M thing on their butt and the logo, and they kind of have high pitched voices and all that. And my wife, she turns to me and says, Don, are they Jotos? I don't know if y'all know what Joto means in Spanish, but
I do.
it's homosexual.
It's,
And I said, well, actually, there was a video released 4 or 5 years ago where they're singing a song called Tra La La, and it's a German gay anthem, whatever, and they're in the car singing it before they play Auburn, I think. So I said, well, I'm not saying that they're Jotos, but the verdict is out. Make your own choices. So anyway, I just had to share that. I thought that was funny. But if you had Netflix, watch the Any Given Saturday. It's a good thing to watch right before the beginning of football season, which is for Texas is 18 days, I believe.
Yep. If memory serves me correctly, wasn't George W. Bush a Yale leader at one point?
At Yale, I think, or Princeton,
No,
one of
I
those
thought
two.
it was at A&M.
No.
Oh no, he was.
No. None
What
of
is
the
his
Bushes.
connection? What is
No,
his connection to A&M? He went to A&M for something. Though was it Matt? Was it
no,
math?
his George Senior's presidential library is at A&M.
Right.
So George Bush and Barbara Bush and their daughter who died of leukemia, they're buried there.
That's why. Okay, that's why.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice little presidential library. George W. Bush is at SMU,
Right.
which is where his wife got her master's, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. In library media sciences. Yeah.
yeah.
all right, guys. Well, hey, good program. We did start off talking a little bit about the kid from Vandy. Bill gave us his best interpretation of him being the best quarterback in the country. But
I don't know if he's the best, but I mean, he's he's in the top five. I'd
okay,
say just because of his grit, his heart, his attitude, that puts him top.
The kid is
Physically,
tough as
okay.
nails.
Well,
Too.
well
yeah.
Don, are you taking him to upset Bama again this year?
Well, here's the thing about Diego Parva. He was kind of he was known, but he wasn't an unknown. Now there's film of him, and so beating Alabama once is remarkable. If you do it twice, you know, um, it's gonna be hard because Vanderbilt lost. I think they lost that tight end Eli Stowers.
Eli Stowers. Yeah. He transferred out.
So I think you know it's great to be Superman, but if there's teams carrying around chunks of kryptonite, you got to be careful.
But isn't Texas the number one rated team? Didn't I
Yeah.
saw something? I thought Texas over Ohio State and the rest. Texas
Yeah.
was number one. Was that? Did I see
Yeah,
that?
coaches poll NAP they're number one, which I
Yeah.
do not like. I do not. I want Texas to be like maybe 4 or 5. I don't want to be number one.
Well, the thing about it is, Don, whoever, as we said last week, whoever loses that first game drops to number 4.
Yeah.
So it might not be, shoot, hey, but that's Bill. What's the other big game? Opening day. There's another big game other than Ohio State, Texas. What's the other?
You mean week 0?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what you consider big, but there's about 4 or 5 that I would consider big. There's a couple of SEC games. Of course, that you just mentioned you mentioned the biggest one, right? I mean, that's the one that is pitting. A lot of some people think they'll see each other again in the finals of the playoffs. I'm excited about watching, Kansas, right? I'm excited. I mean, I get excited about different things than other people, but there's fun matchups out there.
Okay.
I'm excited about seeing what Matt Entz is doing, right? If you're into covering the spread, Fresno State, the last 4 openers has covered the spread. 13-3 against the spread in the last several years, right? Overall. So if you're into that, might take a look at that. But Iowa State and Kansas State.
Who's UNC? Who's Bill Belichick opening it up against?
I don't know if they have a week 0 game. I have to double check. But
No?
the
Okay.
week 0 games are Iowa State, Kansas State, Kansas, Fresno State, Sam Houston versus Western Kentucky, Stanford, Hawaii. Of course, we just talked about the Texas game. Let's see who else is week 0.
No, I'm sure we'll talk. I'll look it up next week, and because what would you say, Don? 18 days?
I believe so. 18, I think.
All right. Well, hey, we'll definitely start out because the college season starts first. Maybe we'll do some over-unders there just to get a little practice. Mr. Scott kicked my butt last year. I got to see if I can improve on it this year. So, hey guys, great program. Looking forward to seeing everybody else next week. Have a great weekend, and most of all, be safe, everybody.
Yeah, and again, you're ducking talking about Pittsburgh. You're ducking talking about Sumlin. You didn't want
We
to even
just
talk
had
yeah, I know. We run
we
out of
just
time
had the
all the time.
Pittsburgh.
We're out of time
No,
now. I understand
no,
that.
we're not out of time. Didn't we have a gentleman that was here all program, even
Yeah,
before
and he
you?
didn't say anything
Even,
either. He ducked it too. They don't really want to
hey,
hit the salient
I
points of
just
this. But I'll see you next week.
Actually, that was discussed earlier, but we can circle back.
no, hey,
Uh,
this like I
I'll be back
predicted.
next week.
Another
And
another
then
stealthy
last
good
week
game.
when Don showed me those tortillas, I had to run out to the restaurant and really try to find some ethnic food like that.
Another
really
stealthy
kind
good
of
game to circle. Nebraska, Cincinnati. Luke Fickle, is now at Wisconsin. Cincinnati
Don,
has.
Don, being the newlywed, I'm taking the over on 50 pounds by the time the season starts. I-
well, I've lost 15 since I got married, so we'll
There we
see.
go.
all
there
right.
you go. All right.
Hang in there.
Okay. All
Hang in
right.
there.
I, I,
Next week, I want to hear about Pittsburgh. I want to hear real more Pittsburgh. I'm tired of this
What,
ducking.
what do you want? What do you want to hear? I just told
Well,
you.
no.
I told you to
I've got to
decaf
go.
was.
Sorry. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been a real pleasure.
Watch out for Colorado, Georgia Tech. Also, that's another fun game. Week 0 that you might want to check out.
All right, guys. Have a good
Night.
one. I'll see you all next week.
And Tennessee, Syracuse. That's going to come on